and I thank you for coming out today to another in the Palm Springs Air Museum's continuing series of Saturday commemorative programs. My name is Greg Kenny. I'm the education coordinator here at the museum, and it's my honor to introduce today's featured program. We've got some fantastic things in store for you today. The 100th Bomb Group will be here presenting their program on the harrowing experiences they had during World War II. They will be opening a new permanent exhibit that I have here behind me, dedicated to the Bloody 100. And hopefully, later on this afternoon, we may have a B-25 coming in. So all those things going on today, I think, is very exciting. Now, however, I'll ask you to please rise and join me while these fine young ladies and gentlemen, representing the Civil Air Patrol, present our colors, at which point I'll ask you to join me in the saying of our Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Palm Springs Civil Air Patrol, for today's color guard presentation. You always do such an important job. You may be seated. At this point, I would also like to thank the museum members who are here today, as well as any members of the board who are here. These are the ones that make this all possible. Thank you very much. Now, if I may have just a minute, I'd like for you guys to imagine something, if you will. Let's think about a small English village, a village that even today only has around 600 residents. And the highlights of this tiny hamlet are, well, they've got All Saints Parish Church. They're only about 106 miles northeast of London. And they also have a village pump that was installed by Lord Justice Kay in 1867. All right. The other things you might want to visit while in this English village are a museum. And this museum is located in an old flight control tower. And the museum serves to remind people of a mass immigration that took place to this village. And the immigration took place June 8, 1943. The village's name is Thorpe Abbotts. And that immigration would be the thousands of American airmen and ground crew that would call Thorpe Abbotts home while they served in the 100th Bomb Group during World War II. These brave men would fly missions that varied from bombing runs to Bremen and Schweinfurt to supply drops to the French forces of the interior. The Bloody 100th, as they came to be known, completed an amazing number of missions and also suffered staggering losses. But throughout the war, they persevered to help bring victory to the Allied cause. The Palm Springs Air Museum is honored to have the members of the 100th Bomb Group here today and deeply moved that they would allow us to provide a permanent home for their exhibit. To the 100th Bomb Group Foundation members, especially Mr. Bob Wolf and Mr. Mike Bailey, gentlemen, thank you. So now, without any further ado, I give you the Palm Springs Air Museum's 100th Bomb Group Reunion Program and its presenters, Mr. Bob Wolf and Mr. Mike Bailey, as well as guest speakers, Mr. Joe Armanini and Mr. Bob Schoen. Gentlemen, on behalf of myself and the Palm Springs Air Museum, thank you for your service, and thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much for that introduction. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, 100 bomb group veterans, their families, and everyone else that's here, welcome. 4 years ago, an idea was put forth to the 100 Bomb Group Foundation to have their own permanent stateside display. The problem was where? So many people pursued us. We already had a great museum in Thorpe Abbotts, considered by many to be the premier museum of the 8th Air Force, but not everybody could get over there. We have David Talashay's wonderful restaurant in Cleveland, and we have a display in Savannah. But we didn't have anything that we could say, this is a place, this is where our display is going to be, this is where people can come to have a repository for their effects so that people can see it. Many options were proposed, many organizations pursued us, our grand history, but such an endeavor requires a great environment, the potential educational opportunities for future generations, a staff that respected our history, and finally, to make the 100th Bomb Group and its members feel as welcome as we do at Thorpe Abbotts. Well, that search ended, and that search ended here, and it ended here today at the Palm Springs Air Museum. This has been our home for hosting our mini reunion since 1999. And at this point, I'd like to bring up Sharon McGuire and Mr. Robert Wolf to dedicate this memorial and cut the ribbon. Bob? Here she comes. Yeah, let me just read it. Today we dedicate this display to you, the 100th Bomb Group and its well-earned accomplishments. May those of you here and those who have passed bless this display with a renewed pride and understanding that freedom is not free. We thank you for your service and our freedom. Before we start our historical part of the program, and thank you very much, Sharon and Bob, I'd like to read a letter from William Cully. He could not be here. He's the president of the Bomb Group Foundation. As president of the 100th Bomb Group Foundation, it makes me proud to be able to construct this historical treasure in the United States so that future generations will be able to view the accomplishments of the 100th Bomb Group. My sincere thanks to Robert Wolf, whose tireless devotion to this project never stopped. To Sharon McGuire, the board of directors and staff of Palm Springs Air Museum, whose relentless efforts internally made this a reality. To Ed Randall and Mark Zimmer of Bob Edwards Construction, whose time, energy, and work went above and beyond in order to pay tribute to the 100th Bomb Group. To Greg Hatzenbuehler for his attention to detail while doing these wonderful displays. To Costco for the beautiful donation of our flat screen TV over here, which will be playing the history of the 100th Bomb Group, and the foundation for taking on this commitment. And finally, to you, my fellow 100th Bomb Group veterans and family members, this is your display. Thank you.
Well, now that the best part of the program is over, I've got a couple of speakers here. They're going to tell some of their experiences, which you may have heard before, but most of us like to see it over and over again. Joe Armanini, you're supposed to be standing up here. Where are you?
Big Joe.
He promises not to talk your ear off, but at dinner time we're going to shut him up.
I promise to tell you the untruth. A bunch of lies. And
Okay, fine. Oh.
and then eventually, when I end, I'm going to sing you a couple of songs that we used to sing at a country club known as the Hunt Bomb Group. In the sense I've said before, the air war is sort of an impersonal war. You don't see the people you killed. You don't know the people you bombed and how they suffered. And when you shot down a plane, you didn't see the person die. So it's really impersonal. So it's machine against machine would actually happen during the war, air war. So I'm going to go over some of the things that happened to me in the course of my 28 missions, and good things and bad things. The planes we lost, some of the people we lost, some of you may know, you might be relevant, I'm not sure. First of all, I went overseas, arriving in April 15, 1942, and we're in Partington. And then from Partington we went to Thorpe Abbotts, where we a mission from then on. The first mission I flew was to Leipzig. It was a secondary target, but the original target was obscured by cloud, so we bombed the submarine pens at Leipzig, and that was the first time that I suffered a loss. Two of my very best friends were flying with Captain Carey, Bob, Bill Griffith, and Cal DeFevre, were the only two people that I know that died as a result of that mission. They drowned in the North Sea, and they were very personal friends because I knew the father and mother of Bill Griffith. He was an extremely great golfer, played at Harding Park in San Francisco. He went to the University of San Francisco. His mother was Cuban, his father was Cuban, but Irish descent. They spoke fluent Spanish, and my mother was Spanish at that, so we got along pretty well together. The mission was described as fair. We bombed the sub-pens. I don't think our 500-pound bomb did much damage to the sub-pens whatsoever. The next mission I flew was to Hanover, which I can't remember anything that happened at that mission. I really don't know. There's a lot of blanks going through my mind insofar as some of these missions I flew. The mission I do remember was the mission to Bonn. Bonn is the home of Beethoven. Perhaps you don't know. But we were supposed to bomb the bridge across the Ruhr Valley, the river. And on that mission was the first time we came back with less than 4 engines. My pilot was hit in the chest by a piece of flak. The thing that saved his life was the fact that the flak hit his Air Force insignia, and but we lost an engine by flak, so we flew unescorted from Bonn, Germany, back to England without any problem whatsoever, other than that fact that we could have suffered great damage to the German fighters. At that point, since my pilot didn't want to fly anymore, he gave up the idea of flying, I was assigned to another group. I was assigned to another squadron. And as a result, I flew with Sam Barr. I was his bombardier for the 349 Squadron. And Sam, whether you know it or not, flew 51 missions. He was one mission less than the lead person that flew. The mission that I probably cost 30 lives, 40 lives, was a mission I flew to Paris. It was one thing about assigning your mission was that the idea was that you're supposed to do the least amount of damage to the civilian population as you dropped your bomb. Now this mission was the Renault plant in the heart of Paris, which straddled the river that crossed Paris at that time. We flew at 24,000 feet, and on the bomb run, you have either within 5 to 8 minutes to drop your bomb. In that course of that run, you're subject to fighter pilots, enemy fighters, and you're also subject to flak. I was on this bomb run. We had kind of give you an idea, when you're on a bomb run, you hit the initial point, return to the target. When you're up at 24,000 feet and you're flying into a crosswind, you have a 90-mile-an-hour crosswind, and you're flying to hit the target. The plane, instead of flying directly, you're grabbing across, and you're really grabbing across the air and that whole formation. And what happened was that Buck Wolf came by and started our number 4 engine on fire. When that happened, the plane swerved. And the consequence, I couldn't drop my bombs or drop it on the center of Paris. So with the engine on fire, Bill and Sandbar put the plane in skid. We went down about 3,000 feet, just a vertical plane like this. We got the fire out, then we leveled out again, but the fire came back on the engine. So we done another 3,000 feet, just down like this. The G's were so forced you couldn't move. You're sitting in a bombardier's chair and just squishing you down. So we leveled out again, and we dropped the bombs in glowing forest, just jettisoned there, and we were on our own. The fighters, they had about 7 fighters chasing us. The strange thing is, I was sitting in the nose of the plane, my navigator was sitting alongside of me, but we couldn't do anything. We couldn't fire a gun because they're all coming from the rear. All we could see was this flak, pretty much cannon shells bursting in front of us. But Sam and Major Beal put the plane in a corkscrew position. Like we're flying in this kind of position and made it very difficult for the people who shoot it fit us. As it crossed the event, our gunners knocked 4 of the 7 planes out of the air. And they left us because we ran out of gas. And we were on our way back by ourselves to England. Meanwhile, the rest of the group went to buy an airfield called Sur-la-Bercy. And on that mission, we lost 4 planes, and it wasn't because from enemy fire or anything like that, it was because they were collision. What happened was that on the bomb run, the bombardier couldn't synchronize his sight on the target, so they made a turn to approach the target once again. When they made the turn, they made a turn on the PDI, and what happened was they hit the prop wash, plane went up, hit the other plane on top of it, the bomb came out, stuck in the wing of the plane, and it blew up. That blowing up caused about 300 planes to crash, and we lost a total of 40 men because of that one failed mission, which probably that I cost it, because if I'd have bombed the target, we wouldn't have had that problem. The one that sticks in my mind most of all, other than the fact that it was Reagan from Great, it was the fact that we were going to bomb a target Solingen in Germany. And the mission that started out okay. We were flying with Colonel Bennett at that time, Major Bennett, and my navigator, Howard Bassett, and I as the lead bombardier. The problem was the fact that as we were flying, my navigator, I turned around to look. All I could see was 2 little feet in the air, because he was only about 5 foot tall, weighed about 120 pounds. And then what had happened is the oxygen mask had come loose. And so I reached down and grabbed him and pulled him back up. His lips were turning to move, and his hands were getting loose to the lack of oxygen. I got him up again and I told him, Howard, hold your troops together. Well, I looked ahead again to the mission, turned around, the oxygen mask, the connection had come apart again, so I thought he was going to die. We got him back up, turned the oxygen up maximum, and we survived with no problem whatsoever. But what happened then was the fact we started losing our engines. The props were running off, and Colonel Bennett, Major Bennett rather, and Howard, and Sandbar were doing everything to keep it going. We lost 1 engine, then we lost the 2nd engine, we lost the 3rd engine. Right? So we're flying with 1 engine over Belgium at this particular time. The group had left us, we were on our own, and it was just going down about 500 feet a second. They worked it. So Howard and I came out of the nose of the plane and got behind the pilots because we're going to bail. I want to be sure to go up to Bombay. And funny thing about, we were thinking about what you're going to do when certain things happen to you. My thought was the fact that I was sort of superstitious when I flew. I used to fly with pajamas on all the time. They were pajamas that were warm, they were striped, white and blue stripes. And I thought, God, if I land on the ground in this pajamas under my flying suit, what are the Germans going to think? Are they going to some screwball? And it's so strange about what goes through the mind when you're in real difficult situation. Anyway, what happened was, as we were going down, there was a battery of anti-aircraft ships, a 4-shot battery, and they would shoot 4 shots right above our level, but as they detonated, we'd be going back and forth like this. So when the flak hit here, we'd be here. And when we went back here, the flak would be this side. This was happening right along right in the Belgian area. Finally, we got one engine going. I mean, the second engine going. So then we put the plane on a big steep dive. We were going down about over 250 miles an hour to get as low as you possibly could to avoid any fighters burning around. So Major Bennett has a big article on this bed. It's in a booklet he wrote. And he talks about what happened by the various members of the crew. A Volkswagen operator said, when he found that we might have to bail out, he told Major Bennett, can I get out of the ball turret and put on my shoes? I don't want to land barefooted. Because the ball turret used to electric shoes. He didn't keep the regular shoes on. He had his slippers. So he wanted to get out of the ball turret, so in case he bailed out, he'd have his regular shoes on. Well, the upshot of this whole thing was a disaster. We didn't bomb anything. We didn't do a damn thing other than survive and get back to England. So that was a failed mission. There were a lot of failed missions like that. You know, you started a regular mission, you decided that you want to complete it, and you have a recall for whatever reason. Either the target was obscured at the time by clouds, so you either buy a secondary target, if there was no secondary target, you'd come back to base, drop your bomb, jettison the bomb, or sometimes bring it all the way back. The mission that everybody wants to talk about was the Regensburg raid. That was a mission that was a complete disaster for the Air Force, although we did good work. We lost a total between the Schweitzer raid and the Regensburg 60 planes. 600 men perished in that raid, which was although we lost a lot of people, we did the damage we supposed to. The only people who didn't do a job was Schweitzer. The Schweitzer people who went to Schweitzer missed the target. But our people hit our target in Regensburg, which was a Messerschmitt factory. From there, we flew over the Alps. I flew over the town where my dad was born, and at that time it was Italy. Before that was Austria. And we Van Nuys jets in the channel. We landed in Africa with just 3 engines. We flew all the way from almost Frankfurt on 3 engines all the way to Africa. We managed. My plane was so badly damaged we couldn't fly out of Africa. We had to fly another plane. When we landed in Africa, we stayed overnight, slept on the ground. And in fact, I could speak 2 languages, Spanish and Italian. The Italian prison there, we talk about what their experience in the war. They were all prisoners. And when we flew a plane that Bucky Kegley was flying. It had the whole nose shot off. And what happened was they put a black canvas with the nose up so that we could fly it. But other than that, the plane was in good shape. So we flew from the area in Africa to Bone, which is a Foreign Legion base in Morocco. And then from Bone, we flew to Marrakesh, which is the Atlas Mountains. Stayed at the Mamounia Hotel. Stayed there for about 4 or 5 days. Visited Medina. It was quite an experience. See the lepers and everything else around the area. And from there we flew back to England along the coast at night. We flew to avoid enemy fighters. That was one of the great mission insofar as what we accomplished. Bad as far as what we lost. The mission that I won a distinguished flying cross with, we were supposed to bomb an armament factory in the Ruhr Valley. What happened was we were approaching a target, we couldn't find a target, it was overcast. All you could see was flak. If you ever go to the Ruhr Valley, it's an area, it's midnight at high noon, because the black, you see thousands of guns in that area, and everybody hated to go there. But we couldn't find it, couldn't see the target. So looking to my left, I saw what appeared to be a smokestack. And we didn't know it was the town. It was just a target of opportunity. I saw a railroad going due north, and I spotted this huge smokestack. So I told Colonel Major Bennett, I said, we have a target. So I synchronized the target. The funny thing about that, we had a 90-mile headwind going into this area. And so our ground speed was probably around 70 miles an hour. And it took us forever to get to the target because of the headwind. And at that particular, on the bomb run, I looked to my left, I saw a German fighter. Then I saw a P-51. I saw the P-51 shoot the German fighter down. I was talking to my navigator, I said, look at that. I wonder who that guy is. So anyway, we bombed the target, obliterated the target, and the funny thing was, we just completely destroyed this thing. And as we were approaching, we dropped that bomb, somebody released the bomb to lake. And there was an alarm, in other words, spaced so many feet apart. We used to salvo our bombs. We released lake, and there's a train in the station at that time. And it looks like we were going to hit the train. And the train was leaving the station, and the bombs were jetting right behind him. One step, he managed to escape. But it was a close call for him. That was the mission. I got back to base, was at the bar, we usually went after the mission, and this Colonel Gobreski shows up. He's the man that shot down the German fighter. And he said, I'd like to see the bombardier that hit that target. The first time I see anybody that really clever target like that. So he goes to the bar, was having a drink, so we sat together. Gobreski was one of the leading fighter pilots for the most days. He shot down 28 planes. He was a great person. He was from Milwaukee, and he was a great person to talk to. That was probably one of the reasons I kind of enjoyed that particular mission, because of what I did with the target, which is not by myself, to the navigator and the rest of the planes, we destroyed that target, which was written up in the ministry as one of the vital pieces of manufacturing nuts and bolts. They say like 60% of it was the result of not being able to manufacture those products anymore. The last mission I flew on was supposed to bomb in Marysburg. And I was supposed to have a milk run. In the Air Force, after you fly a lot of what you call difficult missions, they promise your last mission to be a milk run, which is to go bomb some small target in France, the minimum risk to yourself and your plane, and but you're hitting a vital target. So Colonel Harding had promised me a milk run. So that I was at the bar, I was having a few drinks, and somebody announced Tokyo tanks. Tokyo tanks, when you extra tanks in your B-17, fills you about 2,800 gallons of gasoline. It means you're going to go a long ways. So you have Tokyo tanks, nobody wants to fly that particular day because they're going to go at least 10 hours for mission. And I'm going to be fine. So I sat there and have a couple of drinks. Somebody said, hey, you're on the mission, you're going to go. I said, no, I'm not going. Yes, you're going to go. You're going to fly with Colonel Harding and Crosby is your navigator. I said, I'm not flying. I promised a milk run. What did Colonel Harding promise me that? I said, no, Colonel Harding wants you to fly with him. I said, Tokyo tank. That means I'm going to get back. So I was going to write a letter to my mom and say, hey, something good. I'm not going to make it, Mom. Anyway, I was really upset. And got on the plane, wouldn't talk to anybody. And Crosby was the group navigator. He said, what's the matter, John? I said, this is going to be a milk run. We're going to Poland, for Christ's sake. You know, I'm not going to make it back. He said, well, you mean I'm not going to? Well, none of us are going to make it back. Anyway, so what happened was it did turn out to be a milk run. No, we didn't have it. There was a couple of Ju-88s out the far side. We said, but they were beyond a range of our guns. They didn't do anything to us. We didn't do anything to them. They flew alongside and disappeared. When we went to the target, came back, and Colonel Harding said to me, hey, you got your milk run, didn't you? I said, I did not. Yeah, you owe me one. He said, no, this is your milk run. You're finished. You don't have to fly anymore. I know, that's the good part about it. So I finished my tour, and then Howard Bassett and I were assigned to General Hugland, the 92nd Combat Wing. I didn't come home. I stayed over there. And then 92nd Combat was a group of B-24s. And one of my fraternity brothers from Dartmouth was a major in charge of one of the squadrons. So I tried to flack him up, tell him what I'm going to have and all what we did to newcomers. And so it didn't work out too well because the B-24s were flying with B-17s and the mix didn't go well. So in September of 1944, they took the 24s and assigned them to the 2nd Combat Wing, 2nd Division, which are all B-24s. And they assigned General Hugland, myself, and Howard Bassett back to the 13th Combat Wing. We took over the wing, which is the wing that had in charge of the 96th, the 100th, the 95th, and the 390th. So I stayed there until I finished my tour, and then I was supposed to go with General Hugland to Karachi, where we were going to establish a B-29 base in one of the areas in that area there. And I told General, I'm not going to go. I said, I'm going to go home. I said, you've been back to the States 3 different times since I've been here. I've never been home. I've been here almost over 2 years, close to 2 years. I said, I want to go see my parents, I think, before I go to with the B-29s. So it took you forever to get home. When you're finished your tour, you're assigned to various places. You have to pick up a plane that's going back to the States. So I was in a town where they had originally where the group that came from England changed all of our music, and I was in that particular town for almost 2 months. Finally got a plane, landed in Iceland, back to Goose Bay, back to Connecticut. Now landing in Connecticut was about 98 degrees. And I went to bought myself a pair of suntan suits because the winter clothes were just too warm. So I went to the local officers club, ordered a Budweiser. And the bartender said, what do you think about it? Think about what? He said, the war's over. I said, yeah, come on. I said, I'm going to go to Japan. I'm going to be between, no, the war's over. Turns out the war had ended. And so all the leaves were canceled, and I was assigned to a troop train of about 3,000 members of the Air Force, back to California. But I didn't stay on the train the whole time. I got off at Chicago with about 4 of the buddies, and we were all talking about what we wanted. I wanted a shrimp cocktail. I hadn't had a shrimp cocktail since I left Santa Cruz, right by the water. You know? I said, we're going to go to the hotel. The Hotel Stevens. We went to the Hotel Stevens. We stayed there. We must have spent the whole night. We missed the train, so we had to pay our own fares all the way back to Marysville. When we got to Marysville, that was the end of my tour, except the fact that it took me I had about 6 months leave coming to me, both medical and whatever. So I got out of the service in January 22nd, 1946. So that was my tour. It was both pleasant and sometimes not so good. But I want to tell you what we used to do at the club, at the officers club, or the country club as we call it. There's a song we used to sing, because we used to be misery sometimes. One of the songs we would sing was called the Ruhr Valley song. In my best method, down in the Ruhr Valley, that me so low. Big Fort of honor said we must go. Like those big bombers, fighters do too. B-51 boys, what happened to you? Send me a letter, send it to me. Send it in care of Stalin Blue 3. The other one is the same. The other one we sang was, well, you got to remember, at the country club, as we called it, it was always humor, laughter, all sorts of things. But in back of all that humor was always the fear of dying. We didn't know whether the next mission was going to be our last mission, or we're going to be able to finish the tour or not. So there's a lot of singing, drinking, gambling, bicycle races, the officers club, all these various things that you wouldn't imagine what went on in the Air Force, because it's supposed to be very austere, down the earth, military business all the time, but it wasn't. There's a lot of humor involved, a lot of laughter, a lot of singing, a lot of dancing, bicycle races, you name it. The next song we used to sing when we used to get down the dumps would be this. Don't send my boy to Berlin, a dying mother said. Don't send my boy to Berlin, I'd rather see him dead. Well, the flak starts a-popping, and the fighters all around. Don't send my boy to Berlin, just keep him on the ground. Song, there's over 100 songs on the bomb group. I had more. I'll have to send you all these good songs. Very nice to sing tonight at dinner while we're eating.
I forgot to ask when I first stood up here, how many people in this audience are veterans? I don't care whether you're in the Army, Navy, Air Corps, Marines, or Coast Guard. Good. How many were in the 100th Bomb Group? How many completed their missions in the 100th Bomb Group? Yeah, you veterans that can, please stand up. I want to show you guys off. When all the 100th Bomb Groups can stand up, please do. Thank you very much. These guys, and I'm one of them, these guys gave their all, they gave their youth to the war effort, and for this reason we can stand and salute our own flag, not some crooked cross flag. Any of the group here that's a POW? Well, there's two out there and there's one up here. We had our own way of fighting the war. Once we got shot down, we kept the Germans busy by, sometimes they were fake tunnels, sometimes they were the real tunnels. The Brits did a hell of a job getting an escape, but unfortunately, a lot of them got caught, and they paid the ultimate price. But the POWs did their part while they were POWs because they kept a good bit of the German military occupied, just keeping us behind wire. One of Joe's songs referred to Stalag 3, and that's where I was. And it wasn't pleasant, but we all survived. But I digress. One of the pilots that I left behind when I left in September of '43 was Bob Schoen. Bob, would you stand up, please? Or anything else? Thanks, Dave.
Well, I don't song and I don't sing, I don't dance. I just got out of that chair over there, which is kind of hard, and I know how you must feel. So I'm not going to talk as long as he did because I'm not much of a talker. But anyway, I've been here twice before and I was impressed with this museum. And I flew out here this time especially from Michigan to see this museum and our museum. And I'm impressed. And I want to thank the people who were responsible for it, including Mike and Bob here. I know these, including me, we sweat this out for a long time. We have a lot of artifacts and memorabilia and things stacked around the country that we hope and pray to have someplace consolidated someday, and now we do. So it's a really good feeling to know that it's here where we can all see it when we want to. I was just hoping to be closer to home. 100th Bomb Group. I joined the 100th Bomb Group in November 1943. And I didn't know the 100th Bomb Group from beans, and I didn't know what I was getting into, but there I was. I didn't fly my first mission until January 4th of 44. In the meantime, we'd done practice missions, and of course we'd had all the scare stories and scuttlebutt and stuff around the base. And we learned that there were some places in Germany and some places in France that were worse than others. Our first problem I found out was that when we went out on a mission, if we went beyond the French border, it was without escort. The airplanes, our airplanes, fighter planes couldn't go any further. So my first wish was, of course, I hope I don't have to go any place but France in the first time around. So I went to my first briefing, and lo and behold, it was Neuss, Germany, which is in Ruhr Valley. You heard it in the song. At that time, the Ruhr Valley is one of the worst places in Germany to go, and most heavily defended by anti-aircraft guns. And I was on a first mission this time. We went through Ruhr Valley, and it was a lot of flak, and I got through it. I got home without any injuries or any damage. So I thought this isn't that bad. Well, there were some good ones and some bad ones. And my particular, I don't want to say claim to fame because that's a bad terminology for war. But the biggest and most important mission in my life was the 3rd Berlin mission, which was March 6th of 1944. The Air Force at that time had grown considerably from the point when I first arrived over there. And so we knew in the meantime that sooner or later Berlin was going to be attacked because it was one of the last main targets and important cities in Germany that hadn't been touched by the American Air Force. So it got to the point where every time we went to a mission, we wondered if this was going to be it. Well, the day came when we went through, before March 6th, we had 2 previous to that. One of them was aborted because of weather. On March 6th, we all took off, the whole Air Force in the air. All the fighter defense they could put up was up with us. And we started off for Germany. Well, it was a nice day. And of course, you get kind of comfortable staying at the cockpit with a nice warm sun coming in. You're floating along up there watching everybody else, and the bombers ahead of us and bombers behind us and fighters over us, and everything was wonderful. We crossed the border of France, and by this time the escorts were all away with us. That's where we're going to Berlin. We crossed the border of France, and I looked up all of a sudden. I said, my co-pilot, it looks like a swarm of bees out there. What's that? Well, those bees were coming our way, and we were going that way. In about 30 seconds, we found out about 125 German fighters were coming at us. They went through us, just like that. Went around, came back again, did the same thing, went around a 3rd time, back did the same thing. Well, we didn't have the escort. The escort had been diverted, so here we are exposed to this 125 German aircraft coming at us. And every time we went through, of course, some airplanes went down. When they got all through, I was all alone. 3rd pass, and I'm sitting and looking around, and I looked at my co-pilot, looked at each other, and what happened? Where did I go? They'd all been either shot down or shot so bad they head for home. So we kept going ahead of us with another group in our air division, the 95th. We caught up with them, went over to Italy and Germany, dropped our bombs, and over Berlin, they turned left over Berlin, which means they're going right over the main part of Berlin. And that was black with flak there, and I turned my co-pilot and said, is there anybody up there going home? He looked out his window and said, yeah, the group right up here. So we turned out and caught up with them and flew home with them. So we got home and we left that group and went on to our own field. We approached our field to land, and the whole side of the field where there should have been airplanes parked was empty. We landed, and we were the only one out of that whole row of airplanes to get back. It was, and uniquely, the strange part was I had no damage, no injuries, didn't lose an engine. It was like we'd gone through a dream or something. And we taxied around to our place where we parked our airplane, and the ground crew were standing just staring. They couldn't believe it, just looking at it. Well, that's my story as far as I was bombed. That's the biggest thing that ever happened to me in my life, and I don't imagine anybody, very many other people had the same happen in combat. But they were not easy, none of them were easy. And every time you took off, you wondered, is the airplane going to hang together? Am I going to lose an engine? Am I going to get shot up? Can I get back? And so constantly on your mind. But the thing that impressed me, and a lot of people look at me like I'm weird, there were some nice times. For example, we took off with that balloon rig. We flew all the way to the coast of France in sunshine and clear day, and nothing bothered us anyway. One other time I remember in particular later on in my tour, we went to Bordeaux, France. Well, Bordeaux, France is way down in southern France on the Atlantic coast. We took off, flew over Germany, and flew along the coast of France about 5 miles offshore. White sandy beaches, nice white caps down there. It was spring and France was turning green. It was just a gorgeous flight. We turned in the estuary to go into Bordeaux, and we had a new group commander. This is his first combat mission. And one of the cardinal sins is to go over a target second time at the same altitude, same speed. So we go into this target, and the colonel in the lead ship didn't like what was going on, so he said, let's go around and do it again. Well, we all sat there biting our nails, because you're not supposed to do this. Well, he did it, we went around, and unfortunately, the aircraft went off, and he was the one plane hit. Boom, right there. That was his first mission was gone. So you never know. I mean, you go down and just enjoy it, you feel like a tourist sometimes, and all of a sudden you're in deep trouble. So I flew my last mission on May 1st, 1944. And that, of course, I went off combat, and I flew another fun part I had in England. I went over to Ireland to fly new airplanes into the bases in England. So that was playtime. We'd fly along 500 feet and buzz in this countryside and scare the horses half to death, things like that. We had a good time for a while. Well, finally, after that, it lasted 2 months, and then I came home and became an instructor pilot down in El Paso, Texas. And they switched from B-17 to B-29. So I finished the war as a B-29 instructor pilot. That's my story.
Well, I hope you've enjoyed hearing some of those stories, and I just want to know if anybody out there got any questions. You mean we've told you all about the war and you understand it in detail, I'm sure. Well, all right. I just want to know is, did I see a hand back there? No, I didn't. I guess he is scratching an ear. Anyway, the main purpose of this meeting here today is to open this exhibit. The things that you see here are only a small part of what we have. Our exhibit is going to constantly be in action. It's going to be changing. Things you see here will disappear and others will take their place. And it will try to give a full picture of what went on there, the people that were there, and how we did it. Don't ask me how we did it. We survived, most of us. And we're very grateful for that. We're grateful for you guys showing up here, both veterans, friends, family, and strangers who really aren't strangers. But we are so pleased to have you all here, and I want to personally thank Mike Faley for doing. This is a guy, without him, we wouldn't know very much about the war. He knows more about the war than I do, than Bob Schoen, than Joe Armanini, or anybody else who's a vet. He can tell you chapter and verse about who was on what crew. Mike deserves a lot of credit. Mike and Greg were here all day yesterday. You should have seen this place. It looked like Obama did it. It was, oh, that's the wrong word. Yeah, but there was stuff scattered from hell to breakfast and back again. But they managed to get it all put back together and nailed down. And as I say, some of these exhibits will be here for a while, and then you'll come back in a few months and there'll be new ones, different ones. And we hope that you come back here. This museum, incidentally, Sharon McGuire, the president here, has done a fabulous job of taking care of us. And we hope that we can do the same for her. So thank you, everybody, for coming. If there's no more questions, this is your last chance.
Get all the veterans up here. I want to get a photo with all the veterans.
Yeah, could we get all the veterans of the 100th Bomb Group up here? We're going to take it. Mike keeps an eyeball on every auction on eBay and the other outfits that sell things. And if he sees something, he does his best to glom onto it, because a lot of this stuff, you know, people up and sell their stuff without even thinking that maybe somebody'd like to have it, like the 100th Bomb Group. In any case, he is mainly responsible for our large collection. And we've got a couple of other people in our group, Jan Ridley and Cindy Goodman, who take care of our part of historian, our bookkeeping, and our website, and our magazine. These three people really deserve everything in the world they can get, because they've done a fabulous job for us, and I personally thank them very much. And I want to thank the museum again. I want to thank Costco. I want to thank everybody. And thank you all for coming. Oh, wait a minute, hold it. We've got a question back here.
I guess I finally thought of something to ask. Yeah, can you hear me up there?
Yeah, here comes the microphone.
Yeah, sorry, I know everyone was anxious to leave, so I'm going to get this really quick. But yeah, I'm curious about your logistics.
All right, I'll just yell. Stick on.
Yeah.
I'm curious about your logistics. Was there at any point, did you guys ever, were you ever short of food, short of weaponry, short of parts of your aircraft? Did you ever not have enough clothing?
No.
Were you constantly supplied?
Not as much as I can tell you. We were never short of shells. On the one mission that I recall, we wish we had 10 times as much ammunition. We didn't even have to use it all. But the Regensburg mission that Joe Armanini talked about, we got about 1,500 extra rounds, and well, we had a lot of fighter attacks. We also had flak, and so when the flak came up, the fighters disappeared and the gunners had nothing to shoot at. And as a result, we did have a few extra rounds. I think there were 7 in one gun and 3 or 4 in another. We didn't quite use it all. But on that particular mission, we crossed the coast about 10 o'clock, and the fighters appeared instantly. And between them and the flak, we had 2 hours of, I'd say it was hot and heavy. About 3 or 4 minutes before we hit the target, and we did hit it pretty good too, everything disappeared. There was no flak, no fighters. It was a calm, peaceful, beautiful day. We plastered the target pretty good. And then we went on to fly over part of Switzerland into Italy, and then down between Italy and Sicily. And we had to land our craft in Bone, which was right on the coast, because we'd been hitting the tail pretty good and we'd used up all of our fuel. And we were on the ground and taxiing to our stand over there, and the engines quit. We were that close out of fuel. But Mike told you a little bit about that mission. Coming back, we had to come back by military air transport because our plane was too badly damaged. But as far as to answer the question more fully, we never had any shortage of parts that I know of. And if there were shortage of parts, they had what they called a hangar queen, and that was a plane that was either damaged or unusable for some reason. They take bits and pieces off of it, and nobody ever ran short, at least as far as aircraft or equipment is concerned. And we were never short of food over in England. If you like Brussels sprouts, there was lots of that. But no, we had good food. Now, I can't say the same for prisoner of war camp. That we got a big bowl of barley about so big. That was to feed 8 men all day long, a loaf of bread twice a week, and Red Cross parcels when the trains ran on time and we could get some of them. So the POWs, well, I lost 15 pounds, but that's neither here nor there. I'd like to get back to that fighting weight again. Any other questions?
So, as a Brit and ex-RAF man, a very famous saying that we're familiar with of the 8th Air Force was that you were overpaid, oversexed, and over here. We know you were over here, but I'm interested to learn which category the 2 guest speakers thought they belonged to.
Yeah, the Brits did have a saying about we were overpaid, oversexed, and we were over there. And they seem to think that we took all of their women, but not all of them. But they did a pretty good job over there too. And I will say that the Brits, the Bomber Command in Britain, their losses far exceeded ours. They had 155,000, I think, flying, and I think they lost something like 55,000 men dead. They had very, very serious losses. But they flew a different style of bombing attack. They flew at night primarily, and they did a good job when they did it, but their losses were excessive. Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you all, and I want to thank, speaking of the Brits, I want to thank Ron and Carol Batley, who are the curators of the Thorpe Abbott's Museum. That's our old control tower over there. They've done a fabulous job. If you ever get a chance to get to England, I suggest you go there. But don't forget about coming here also. Thanks again. Pleasure. Oh, one more question.